Welcome once again to another edition of the 4 o'clock game. And today we're going to be continued with the 4 o'clock game salutes the Olympics as we present another game for the arcade. And yep, we've been talking about track and field some time ago on the 4 o'clock game when I did a playthrough of track and field to give you a little commentary about all the events. There were like 6 events that were included in there. You know, we've been doing 100-meter dash, high jump, long jump, high jump, 110-meter hurdles, and there's also a javelin throw and a hammer throw. But all 5 events that were included was later ported onto the NES as track and field, which came out 4 years earlier before what happened. It was pretty much well done. It was made in 1983. It had the graphics. Actually, the graphics, it looks pretty well done. The music was good, and the voice is pretty well done. It was a nicely done game. We know because what happened before the NES before the game was put out on the NES, was later ported onto the NES. It does not have any voices at all. It doesn't have any digitized voice at all in the NES version. But not as superior to what it was made, but it was a pretty good game. It's pretty solid for an original arcade game from 1983. So enough said, enough with the track and field. We're going to move on to another game that I'm going to be talking about today. This time is Hypersports. This game was released in 1984 for the arcade, and it was made to us by a company called Konami and Century. Well, this is what they call Konami Century track and field, which it says Konami's track and field broke ground for a new dimension in video sports entertainment. Konami Century's or Konami's Hypersports takes that concept one step further. Unlike many sequels, we have greatly improved all aspects of the original game theme. Players' participation is enhanced, while the screen, new and distinct events offer greater diversity for a broader-based player appeal. The times demand such a game. Konami Century's Hypersports is a game for our times. And yep, as you probably know, Hypersports was a sequel to Track and Field, which is actually from a year before. It has also 7 events that was included in this version of Hypersports in the arcade game. The other three events, which was later included in the NES version of Track and Field, which is actually 3 along with the other 3 events that were included, but some of them were never included as well, like the one we're going to be talking about that right now in just a moment. We're going to be, I have never heard of this game of Hypersports because of, it's an Olympic style game in which you can participate and to qualify in the event. So enough said, let's get on to the game, shall we? And enough said with this little argument here, but I gotta get out of this place right now. Okay, let's go to the arcade mode. So let's start this game and see what it is. And I had to just delete these stuff and trash it in. Okay, enough said. Let's get on with the game, shall we? In these events, you start up the game with one of the 7 events they included here: freestyle swimming, skeet shooting, long horse, archery, triple jump, weightlifting, and pole vault. Long horse, I don't know why they call this event long horse. It's gymnastics. I don't know what come up with weird events. Long horse, or what they call hot dog aerials. You like to say hot dog aerials from the NES game called Winter Games, which is kind of the most funniest thing I ever seen in any event. So let's go down in order and see what it is. Let's check this out and see what it goes. Those were gives you the rankings for the 10. It has all the archery. There's a triple jump. There's actually a list of events that are included here. But the flyweight, That's a weightlifting. Gives you a little demo. All right. I want to thank. Yeah, you should. You know, this clip came to us from another YouTuber. And yep, there it is. This came out in 1984, a year after Track and Field was released. Another early Konami game. Yeah, put the coins in, and yep, to start up the game, you can put your initials in. You have to put your initials in. It's like a shape of a star.
On your mark, get set.
And then the first event goes in is freestyle swimming. Well, this was never included on an NES version of Track and Field, except for Track and Field 2, that was kind of like a rehash, which was later more advanced in Track and Field 2 for the NES. Instead of this one, it can give you graphics. It gives you a more updated, it has more advance. Unlike Track and Field, it gives you the voiceover you hear gives you a total. The next event we call is Skee Shooting. This is the most difficult event in any game, unlike the NES version of Track and Field. This is the most difficult event ever put out. Yeah, and then the voice gives you like how much score you get to qualify. But if you don't get it within 1,000 points, you will lose. This, like I said, this is the most toughest event in any game. But it's not as really well done. But it's kind of sucks because this got to be one of the worst events in video game history. But not like the way they did in Track and Field. But this was later poured onto an NES game called Track and Field, which came out 3 years earlier. You have to shoot all these clay pigeons or whatever you're gonna shoot those for rank up your score. You get a 15 seconds. You have to time it correctly for 15 seconds. This is a time limit. The next event is what they called the long horse, or gymnastics to be exact. I don't know what is going on with this event. Why do they call this event long horse? I don't really get it. It's a gymnastics. The object is you have to do it perfectly fine. But this is what you do. It's failure.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, the first one was actually qualified and did it perfectly well. Yeah, the second one's just a failure.
Wow.
And the third one is kind of fouled. And unlike the Track and Field game, this gives you the winner, the combination as the winner. The next event is called the Archery, another one of the most difficult events in video game history. It gives you points. Yeah, you have to aim your target to get the bullseye is where you earn 600 points. You have to time it correctly. When you aim at the target, you got to get this thing right. You at a 5.2 angle. But yeah, you're low on the 3.4 angle. 840 points, you see. That's the voice you hear in this. Gives you the score. And you have to keep it going. And then you have to time this correctly if you want to go up to about 5.2 angle to get a bullseye. But like I said, I told you, it's one of the most difficult events in video game history, but in any Olympic style game, which is like Track and Field. But the event was later ported onto the NES game Track and Field, which came from 1987. And now you're way too close to a 7.6 angle, and those of you have to keep shooting these archeries. Yep, there's your target. As you can see, the voice saying nice, according to what it says. That's where you get a bullseye in the game. But close to get a bullseye. And yep, there's your final score. The next event is a triple jump. That's another one from the NES game Track and Field, which I mentioned about 4 years ago when I did this playthrough. Yeah, first up, it's just a failure. You have to time it correctly if you get, depending on this 61 degrees, 45 degrees. And yeah, unlike the long jump and the high, unlike the long jump, this is sort of like an event that they did a triple jump.
Foul.
But that's right, you get third try, it's foul. The next event is called the weightlifting.
Flyweight.
But there's actually it gives you an option whether you choose fly, bantam, feather, light, middle heavy, heavy, and super heavy. But this one is going to become fly. A flyweight. You have to watch where you get it right. You get stronger. And there you go. Yeah. Then you get another one, bantam. A bantamweight. You have to lift it thing to if you increase it, you have to keep pressing these buttons. The judge, and there you go. If you don't lift it up, you get a foul. The last event is the pole vault. This is the most difficult event in video game history. But yep, that failed terribly bad.
Foul.
And you get into the foul. There's your fault meter. And then of course, you have to jump it. You have to lift the pole thing up. And then you get it right. Then you can try it perfectly. And then you get to qualify is a 5.65 meters. And then, yeah, you can tell what is the meter is going up. But that's the foul. You got one more try. And then you're done.
Foul.
And then after that, unlike this, you get the same winner, the commendation. And there you go. That was Hyper Sports. Well, the game was rather short, but sweet. But it's not bad for an arcade game like this. So after you completed all the events, puts you right back in the very beginning of the event, which you start the same thing over and over again with this freestyle swimming. So with that, let's kick this thing out of here and wrap things up. Hyper Sports is, it's sort of like I've never played before, and it was a follow-up or a sequel to Track and Field. Unlike if you think it's a direct sequel to Track and Field, it has 7 events, but 3 other events like Skee Shooting, Archery, and High Jump. No, Skee Shooting, Archery, and Triple Jump would also end up being in the NES version of Track and Field, which came out about 3 years later in 1987, which I mentioned 4 years ago when I did a 4 o'clock game on the Track and Field. It's already posted somewhere on my channel. So that was back in the old days of the old 4 p.m. game YouTube channel, if you may recall, 4 years ago when I did a video of my playthrough. And of course, if you want to see the whole playthrough, it's posted here, and you can tell what the difference between these events were. Very common for this version for an arcade game, but yep, there you go. And as you can, like I said, the last time on my last episode, both Track and Field and Hyper Sports are the 2 early Konami games, ever put out around the 1980s, and there was also included there freestyle swimming and which also later included in Track and Field 2, which I'm going to talk about that in the next episode, which was a repeat episode. And of course, there's also another one, I think, is the let me think. It's hammer throw from the first Track and Field game in the arcade. That was later included in Track and Field 2. And that's all I could say about the other games, but the weightlifting is never included in the NES game, and all these few other events that were never included. But that's all you could tell. It's a pretty decent game, but it's a solid game. If you're a fan of Olympics or anything like that, it's your best bet. So I highly recommend the other two, the original arcade games. But I think the most difficult event is actually Skee Shooting and Archery are the two of the most difficult shootings. It gives you two of the most difficult events in video game history in hypersports. It's rather difficult, but it gets a little bit of challenge in there. But you have to time it correctly if you want to shoot the target or whatever it is you use to shoot it, but to get your points. But that's up to them. So it's the player. It's actually for a 4-player, probably a 2-player game. I'm not sure, but if you like the Olympic style game, just play the arcade game for a little bit while you can play the NES game. If you like it, try Track and Field for the NES, which is a pretty good classic. But anyways, that's all you can say. Or you can try Track and Field 2 as well. So those two great NES classics, Olympic classics for the NES, it would be, it's worth your time saver here. So that's enough for me. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the 4 o'clock games as we salute the Olympics, which is in Rio. And I'll be back again next time we play another playthrough right here on the 4 o'clock game. And I'm going to continue. We're almost on our way to Mega Man 7, 8, and 9 is coming up very soon. So I'm going to tell you all about it. So all about in our continuation of the Mega Man Summer Spectacular. And that's all I can say about that. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. So, till then, the next time, Chris saying goodbye, and I will see you again. Thanks for watching.